name's Chris Baines. As you can tell, I'm not from around Missouri, but I've been living in Missouri for 8 years now. I'm now an associate professor at the University of Missouri-Columbia, and my work primarily focuses on mechanisms of how heart cells die during different cardiac diseases. So, for example, during a heart attack, you get a large amount of the cardiac tissue dies, and we're looking at the mechanisms within those cardiac cells that mediate that death. The same thing with heart failure. When I was a postdoc at the University of Louisville, I obtained a postdoctoral fellowship from the American Heart Association, and then when I was transitioning from postdoc to faculty, I was lucky enough to get a very prestigious Scientist Development Award, which was really helpful in helping me to become an independent investigator in my own lab. Since now that I run my own lab, I have my own trainees, and both a PhD student in my lab and a postdoctoral fellow both obtained fellowships from the American Heart Association, which again has been super helpful, one in sort of helping train them, but also provides them something that looks really good on their resume that helps them move on to the next level. It's the lifeblood, really. We are expected to get extramural funding to run our own research program. We get given a certain amount when we start at a new position. That only lasts for so long, so we need to obtain extramural funding in order to keep our labs up and running, and so we can do the research and make those next breakthroughs. So that involves obviously getting government money from the National Institutes of Health, but other organizations such as the American Heart Association are extremely helpful, again, particularly for young investigators, to get those sort of first monies under their belt to help their research programs grow. It's a big meeting, several thousand people. It's important primarily because you see the best science here. You really get the best cardiovascular science, from my perspective, from a basic science point of view, but also there's a lot of clinical science being presented here as well, so you can find out about the latest big clinical trials and things like that. So it's important just in terms of keeping up to date with what's going on in our field. But it's also important for networking, for meeting people, striking up new collaborations. It's extremely important for trainees. I make a point of introducing my trainees to the sort of big leaders in the field so they get to know them. Again, all part of networking. So it works on multiple levels. Firstly, the science that's being presented, but also the opportunities for interaction and collaborations to grow. So I'll be presenting tomorrow afternoon in a session looking at various forms of cell death. I'll be again focusing on the role of the mitochondrial protein, something we call FAST-Kd1, and its role in protecting the heart against a heart attack. Often when you have a heart attack, the walls become so thin because of the loss of tissue that they can rupture. And we found that this protein is highly protective against cardiac rupture after a heart attack. So I'll be presenting unpublished data on that new study that my graduate student has been working on. Heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States, and it's rapidly becoming the #1 killer in the world. So I think it's extremely important to continue to support that, particularly from the point of view of this money goes into the research. This goes into groundbreaking research and clinical research to provide the next breakthroughs that can hopefully cure people or help people with cardiac disease, and thus reduce, quite frankly, the really horrifying numbers of deaths that are associated